Hello everyone at home. This is TeamREDACTED, Robot in 3 Days team from the Pacific Northwest. First of all, I want to thank all the people that made this possible. The great folks at Andy Mark who donated an AM14U3, number of wheel kits, frame opening kit, and miscellaneous pieces that made this possible. We also need to thank Bare Metal, Team 2046, and Darren Collins, their lead mentor, who allowed us to use a control system, motors, nuts, bolts, basically most of the stuff on the robot. Team 2907, Lions from Auburn Mountain View High School, who provided a few parts. Team 3219 Tread from Auburn High School, who allowed us to use all of the field elements that they built for kickoff for our testing purposes. And then of course FIRSTWA, or Washington First Robotics, for the use of this field house where we did the building and where we are broadcasting from right now.
You guys ready to answer some questions?
All right, sure.
Do we have Kay online?
I don't have Kay yet, but I'll make an attempt to get here in a second. I do have one question right now from Matthew Lang. Question is, what changes did you make to the AM14U3 to accommodate the wider wheels? Sounds like we got a little bit of interest in that.
So that's one of the things that Andy Mark provided us was the pneumatic wheel upgrade kit. It was kind of a prototype. From my discussion with the engineers at Andy Mark, the one that they have released that's going to be going out to teams is slightly different. There are some additional spacers. You need longer bolts, about 5 1/4 inch long bolt for your axle bolts. If you're just buying the wheels themselves, there are belts that are specific length for a long wheelbase. Personally, we chose to go for placing the wheels in the square configuration and use the belts in the AM14U3 kit designed for the square configuration. And because it was a prototype kit that we got, we did have to get a couple spacers to make sure everything lined up right, and our spacing on our side plates would line up exactly with the end pieces. I understand that the kit, like I said, that they will be shipping to teams, has the right spacers, and they have actually done a couple other things, so it'll make it easier for everyone to put together.
So now we talked about the wheelbase, and we showed off a little bit of the wheels in I think day one video.
Mm-hmm.
Day one video. Can you explain a little bit about the specific, exactly the specific details, other than maybe send people to day one? Unfortunately, Matthew just got an ad, and so he missed your whole spiel. If you'd love to repeat it, that'd be great.
Okay, Matthew, we're sorry about that. That's
Sorry
the beauties of
Ustream.
the Ustream's low-cost free stuff. So, Andy Mark provided us a prototype of their pneumatic wheel kit, and because they are much wider, the side plates are farther apart, so we did need some longer axle bolts, about 5 1/4 inches long. All we could find were 5 1/2s at our local hardware store, but we made do with that. We did have to come up with a couple other spacers so that our sides were spaced properly so that the holes lined up with the end plates. But my understanding from talking with the engineers at Andy Mark is that the kit they will shipping to all the teams is based on our feedback, their feedback of doing it. Will include everything that you need to accommodate the wider wheels.
And so we chose to use the square configuration of the AM14U3, but I presume teams would be able to use those wheels with either the long or wide configuration as well?
So the upgrade kit, the pneumatic wheel upgrade kit, does include belts for a long configuration, not as long as the wheelbase is with the 6-inch wheels, of course. But we assembled it in the square configuration with the belts for the square configuration and the 6-inch wheels, and we actually did not have to do any modifications. We cut along the lines for the square and they fit perfectly. The wide configuration we have not tested. I'm afraid that you may end up with your wheels touching each other if you were to do the wide, what's called the wide configuration and the one for U3 instructions. But that's something you guys can quickly check out at home by placing a wheel in there and an axle through it and see if they rub or not. So we did choose that wheelbase length to help increase our breakover angle so that there's less space between the wheels. When we go over something, we're less likely to get high centered on the frame with the shorter wheelbase.
Yeah, so one difficulty we did encounter that teams might want to be aware of actually is that going over the moat with the square configuration with the 8-inch pneumatic wheels, unfortunately things line up perfectly so that the two rails of the moat get stuck between your 3 wheels, and you can get high centered like that if you move slowly. If you move quickly, you'll jump right over, but teams might want to take that into account in their design and in how they space out their wheels.
We are live, right?
Yes, we are.
Regina is trying to watch the live stream, and apparently we're offline.
No, we're live.
Okay.
I'm confirming it.
Definitely confirm. 'Cause we want to make sure Matthew just got the whole
Oh, yeah.
spiel.
Is there anything else that you guys did differently with the kit chassis?
So we did also use their frame opening, the Andy Mark frame opening kit, so that we could actually take the ball into the frame perimeter. We felt that was a safer way to transport the ball over the obstacles and make sure it stays in our possession, doesn't go bouncing off, and we have to go chase it down.
You know, I realized we never did any introductions. Do you guys want to introduce yourself? Maybe start with Aaron here.
Sure, I'm Aaron Schmitz, first alumnus and now engineer at Microsoft, and I was one of the mechanical designers on TeamREDACTED.
My name is Chelsea Olson. I am an electrical engineer at the Boeing Company and a PhD student at the University of Washington. And I was electrical design and, quote, robot ballast.
And I'm Eric VanBuren. I am the first senior mentor for Washington State and head coach for a local team, Team 5588. And I was kind of the gopher, going to get parts and helping assemble the chassis and
Breaking stuff.
breaking stuff, absolutely. Actually, our chief braking person is not here tonight. That's Jim Prelesnik. So John here's pretty good at breaking things as well.
And I'm Marvin the Martian, and I'm going to blow the Earth with my Extra 7 space modulator. Kanan, get my gun.
Also known as John Grimm, and helped out with humor, mostly. A little dash of software ideas and a little help here and there with some ideas, and helped wire some pneumatics, and then a lot of Dukes of Hazzard driving.
You and Leo.
Mainly Dukes because of Hazzard driving.
You and Leo managed to code up an autonomous that got 99% of the way there to score a ball.
That's right. Well, actually, yeah, very true. If we had a little more.
If we had a little bit more.
We didn't
more
demonstrate
score.
that though.
We didn't demonstrate that? It's
No.
a secret. It exists, but you're not allowed to see it.
We have video somewhere. If we find it, we'll post it.
I might have some on my
Maybe.
phone.
Lots of video.
I'll put the phone in front of the camera. This will be really high tech. No kids back in my day, we used to have draw sketches.
Well, pretty soon we're going to be patching KN through Google, the Google Hangout to talk with us, hopefully, crossing fingers.
We'll see.
And that's a whole lot of the high tech right there. Any other questions? Does
Nothing-
Matthew have another question?
Nothing yet right now. I'm just monitoring the streams right now. If anyone has any questions, feel free to contact us.
Twitter or
Ustream.
Or Ustream. Twitter's right here. That's what we're looking at.
You have the entire of Twitter in your hand.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
All of the Twitters, everybody.
Oh,
There
the
wouldn't be
Twitters.
anyone downstairs banging on the door, would there?
No,
We'd hear
why?
him.
Okay, I keep thinking I hear something.
You might want to check the live stream or text Regina because she still can't get on.
Okay,
So,
I texted Regina.
Do you want me to go check it? I'll go check the door.
what about
I'll be right back. Meanwhile, back in the robotics lab.
Marvin the Martian?
So
Please tell me no.
I guess we should talk a little bit about our philosophy on why we chose to design this robot the way we did. One of the first things that John, who just left, did when he got here was sit down, and Jim, who is not here this evening, did was kind of sit down and analyze all these defenses and what it would take to cross or open, you know, to get through them, to break them down. So that was one of the driving factors behind using the 8-inch pneumatic wheel kit, because it gives us better ground clearance for the moat and the rock wall and the rough terrain. And one of the advantages why we went to the shorter wheelbase also is that as you go up the ramp, it lifts the shorter your wheelbase it is, the higher it lifts those front wheels off the ground when they clear the ramp. Thus, the higher the bottom of the chassis is, which allowed us to clear the 4-inch high rock wall with a 3.5-inch high frame.
It's worth noting though that that also bites you on the low bar and the portcullis, where you're trying to be as low as possible to get under the portcullis and under the low bar. I don't know, teams that maybe aren't building super great fields might show up at an event and realize that just because the low bar is 16 inches tall, their robot actually tilts up as it's going on the ramp up to the low bar, and so you actually have to be down at about 12 inches to fit under. So that's something teams should definitely be aware of and take into account in their design, is that it works both ways. You get a little taller because of the ramp, but that can really cause some problems on a couple of the defenses.
You know, I saw on Reddit that there was someone who posted a diagram talking about that, and their calculation was up to 14 inches. But
So
but it could be. It depends on a lot of factors.
It
Yes.
depends on the length of your robot.
Yeah.
But it's something that you should definitely take
Yeah,
into account.
and it's actually much worse on the portcullis, because it takes you from like 5 inches to 2 inches, which is obviously, you know, a factor of 2.5 versus, you know, it's only like a 20% difference on the low bar.
So I think what we're getting here is, if you guys are going to go ahead and build field elements to practice with this year, follow the field instructions and build them as close as possible to what you think you'll see on the field, because practicing with something that's not accurate this year could actually have a really, really big impact on how you do in your matches.
So yes, in our design for our device to open up the portcullis, what we're calling our tomahawk, I'm not sure if you can see this well at home, but you'll see that there's a second addition here that once we ran it up the ramp to the portcullis, our little wedge here was no longer going underneath it. It was hitting, so we had to do this extension, which thankfully still is within our 15-inch frame extension, just barely.
I think we've got an inch to spare, Eric.
About. And yes, that brings up a great point. When you're building your robot,
It's not inspectable.
stay on the safe side. If it's a 15-inch frame extension, or extension past the frame, do not make it 15 inches exactly, because when things shift, the holes don't line up exactly. You don't want to be 15 1/8 inches because you slipped a little bit. So target for like 14 3/4, and then when you're off 1/8, you're still within the actual.
And just as important, or probably more important than that 15 inches.
I wasn't going to cross in front of Eric, but I'm going to cross in front of Aaron.
That's cool. Just as important as that 15 inches is you definitely do not, under any condition, want to be over your 120-inch maximum frame perimeter. So
What would
definitely-
happen, Aaron?
Your robot would not be able to compete, and that would be sad.
You'd
But
be-
then maybe we could cut off a corner of your robot.
You'd be
and
spending a lot of time with
corners
the
are overrated.
Sawzall.
Yeah,
and the
right.
filer. You don't want to spend a lot of time with the Sawzall and the filer when you can be on the practice field. Plus, nobody likes to Sawzall their robot.
No, you like sawzalling other people's robots.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Well
and,
made.
and so John, one of our event volunteers, would come over and sawzall off part of your robot, and probably not the part you want, because he can be kind of a pain sometimes.
You're gonna have to bring it to me on the field.
Any other questions on Ustream? Question check.
Nothing right now. I do have a question. Did you guys talk yet about the decision to choose a shorty versus a tall or a shooter as a part of for the robot design?
I'd like to talk about that one.
Good.
So initially, I was actually really opposed to the short design and one of the naysayers of that design, I guess. But having had 2 or 3 days to debrief, I've kind of decided it's not so bad. So I think the reason that the short design, that is something that can collapse down to under 16 inches or 14 inches or whatever that number is to get under the low bar. The reason that's great for teams is that it gives them an opportunity to distinguish themselves. So for younger teams, the more advanced teams, I'm guessing that say 70% of teams overall won't be able to get under the short bar. And so the more advanced teams are going to be looking for an alliance partner that's able to get under the low bar so that they can breach the defenses and get that, I don't remember, is it 15 or 20 point bonus?
Well, it's a ranking point
ranking.
qualifications, and it's, I
in
believe it's
semifinals.
25 in the finals.
Or was it
Or
20 and then
20.
25 was the tower?
Either 20 or 25.
We'll say 20
So
points.
it's a good chunk of points.
Either way, it's a
Fair
huge
enough.
number of
You guys
points
already.
that totally will be make or break a match in the semifinals. And so the veteran teams, the alliance captains, are going to be looking for teams that accomplish that at their events during alliance selection. And then even if you are a veteran team, it still makes sense to do something like that, because when you make it to the world championships, the even more veteran and stronger teams will be looking for alliance members with that capability as well.
So,
Because it is important to note that the low bar is always on the field.
Yep.
In the same spot.
So that was one of the driving factors behind the fact that we wanted to do that, because then we know that we've got 20% of it licked every time.
so something that I was a big proponent of a short design with some of the other members on the team. However, a downside that I really now see in that design is you have to be very, very judicious about how you use your space on the robot. There's not a whole lot of space on that robot for anything electronics or pneumatics wise, and I would tell any team, just be careful. Keep in mind your electronics, keep in mind your pneumatics, keep in mind what you need for autonomous, because with a robot this small, or a short robot in general, you're gonna have to come up with some very creative ways to make yourself some space, especially if you add more manipulators on, like a shooter or, something that can hang. So do be careful. Probably would have advocated a taller robot design, doing it over again, but I like the way it turned out, even though it was a little bit interesting on how to figure out where to put the robo-Rio and the power distribution board and the air compressor, which are the largest parts of those systems.
And the battery.
And the battery,
That one's important
which you
too.
actually have to make sure you have room to strap it down fairly securely.
So I think Chelsea's recommending a 3-story electronics condominium for your robot.
It would be awesome, but you couldn't go under the low bar.
You could? 3 really short stories.
3 really short stories.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oranges
okay,
each.
So-
fair enough.
What we did was only one story, and I think I would recommend to teams trying to fit under the low bar, start right off the bat with 2 stories. You're gonna need it.
Figure out
Well,
some creative way to do that.
Another driving factor that gave us such a small footprint for mounting all that is we did the open front kit on the robot. So the front, basically from the transmission forward, is dedicated to carrying that ball. So we
And
only have a very small area.
6 8-inch wheels, especially the wide pneumatic wheels, take up a lot of space too.
Because, yeah, we did want to make sure we stayed on the narrower side so that when we're going through any of the defenses, we don't have to line up absolutely perfect to get through there and make sure that we
You
go
don't
through
line up
square.
absolutely perfect every time?
Jeez, Eric.
Well, I do,
Must be
but, you
nice.
know, when you're driving.
Well, the real problem was that our programmers were unsuccessful at creating an automatic alignment program.
Given the fact that we gave them 1 hour to do the programming.
All right. So,
They had all day, they just
And
didn't
no
get the
sensors.
robot until
And no
the last
sensors.
hour.
so
And a
if
camera.
if I've done things correctly, which I really hope I have, we should have Kay live at this point in time, audio only. Can you hear us, Kay?
Okay.
Good job, Jason.
Hi, Kay. Hi, Kay.
She'll hear us in about 4 seconds or so. I'll work on that.
Face not recognized.
Okay, so I do have a question or so.
Okay.
Which defenses did you find most challenging to design with the short robot? Chelsea, you were talking about the space limitations.
Yeah, the space limitations were definitely difficult on a short robot. That I think was the largest design flaw I saw in trying to have a short robot was real estate for those items. But these guys could give you some other difficulties. Frame perimeter is lots of fun when you're that short.
I would say the hardest class of defenses are the ones that open towards the neutral zone. That is the drawbridge and the sally door.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
Good job.
good job.
Sean's favorite.
You get a gold star.
We've called it all sorts of different things this weekend. He didn't call it Sally Door until today.
I don't know, which one of those two do you think is the most difficult, Eric? John?
Well, we are not capable of opening up the drawbridge or the sally door from the neutral zone ourselves.
Well,
we were successful in opening the sally door.
Sally door.
Once.
Yes.
Twice.
Three times.
3 times.
So not.
It's difficult for a short robot.
So yes, we did. It's actually Aaron's little
Okay,
idea
there's-
here, and it's now been removed. But we did put a little hook on our tomahawk. And I guess we should actually talk a little more about the tomahawk, which is our multi-purpose tool. So I think we kind of implied that this wedge here is what gets underneath the portcullis, and actually it slides up very well, and it passes off to, we've got basically a sort of a roll cage effect by our little polycarb sides, which allows the door us to slide right underneath the door.
Having a shorter robot is definitely an advantage.
Well, that was what
Or
I
the
was going to
portcullis.
I was going to say that in general for all the defenses in regards to what is the
Yeah.
the most difficult defense to get across. If you were building a taller robot and you try and go over anything that has anything, I mean the rough terrain, the moat, the ramparts, all of them, they actually tip your robot a lot more than you imagine.
Shut something rather.
Cheval de Frise.
Thank you, John.
Think about it, at first you're going up the initial ramp for the platform, and then on top of that you're then hitting up to a 4.5-inch obstacle. And between all of that height change, a taller robot is actually going to wind up almost at a 45-degree angle to begin with. If you don't keep your center of gravity as low as possible for a taller robot, you're going to have a severe difficulty getting over those rough obstacles, I think, on those. Something like the drawbridge or the sally door or the portcullis, that if you can get them open, you can probably drive through with no problem because they're fairly straightforward.
Mhm.
But all the little bumpy ones,
All of those, yes.
if you're a taller robot, you got to watch your center of gravity.
Yeah, so with the shorter robot, I definitely think it'd be feasible to open the sally door either with my solution, which was to reach in underneath. There's nominally a 1-inch gap underneath the sally door that you can use to hook it, or else it's reasonable to get a robot that's tall enough to pull it open from the top as well. On the drawbridge with the shorter robot, that one is very, very difficult to open with the shorter robot.
Use your scaling attachment.
Well, yeah,
Which we don't have.
if you have a
Yeah.
good scaling attachment, but the part that makes that really hard is that, if your robot's 28 inches long, the height of the drawbridge is, I don't remember, something like 3.5 feet. So it's actually pretty tough to reach up there and pull it down from the shorter robot.
Well, the scale you'd be wanting to reach up 4.5 feet off a 2-foot robot anyway, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You might
so
have that
both
reach.
of those are pretty difficult with the shorter robot. What we came up with for the drawbridge that I think is pretty reasonable if you're coming back from
Spy.
damaging another defense is to go backwards over the drawbridge to put it down with our tomahawks or whatever your manipulator is, and then per our interpretation of the first rules, which of course are
As they're currently written.
subject to change through team updates, is that all you have to do is for a split second come out of contact with the defense, which we do by just temporarily raising our tomahawks for about half a second and then putting them back down, and then we just drive over, and that meets our interpretations of the requirements to damage a defense. And it doesn't really cost you any time if you're already coming back from damaging something else. So it works pretty well, and is probably faster than any manual method of opening the drawbridge from the neutral zone.
We talked about that quite a bit this week, and how are we going to get this last defense? I think we took care of the other 8 before we did that one, and that was the
Yep.
last one we did. I know there's been a game update released so far, so it'll be interesting to see upon reading whether or not they actually clarify what the conditions are for getting that defense on the way back after you go through it.
Yeah, I didn't see any clarifications on that in the
Any of
first
us?
I haven't
Submitted as
read
a
the
question yet?
updates. So.
team update. Probably the most interesting team update was they did provide quite a bit of clarification on G11, which is the rule about intentionally causing another team to commit a foul. Teams should definitely check that out if you haven't already.
So this tomahawk here, what else does it do? We've got it holding down our the drawbridge and lifting up the portcullis, but what else does it do there, Aaron?
Pulls open the sally gate. It funnels the balls into the robot.
And it helps us with one other obstacle, which John can pronounce the best.
The Cheval de
The
Frise.
freeze.
Thank you.
So these devices are pneumatically powered. They're spaced such that if you are lined up where your robot is up against 2 that are up, it will push 2 down. If you're lined up where you've only got 1 in your way, you actually have to kind of
Just line up so you've got 2 in your
right.
way.
The 2 that are down.
Yeah.
We did consider some sort of connection between these so that they would push down up to 3 at a time, but that interfered with the ball intake, so we figure we line up, and they are a foot wide. The spacing on this is such that we don't have to be a perfect lineup to do that either.
Thank God.
The only one that we really have trouble with is the ramparts. That is very steep, and it's right at the edge of the ramp. So that one we do have to go up at a little bit of an angle to get the one wheel up high enough, or the frame corner up high enough, so we can get the tire up on it.
Just to clarify, what you mean, Eric, is that we approach the obstacle from an angle,
Correct.
not straight on.
Yes. So at a 70-ish degree angle maybe, instead of a 90-degree angle.
And then we crash into the shield and sort of bounce off it and proceed the rest of the way through. Which actually reminds me of another point, teams. Your robots are probably going to be taking some abuse crossing these defenses, especially if you have drivers who lack self-control like John. So definitely make sure.
Plenty of self-control,
We have
just
plenty.
not with a robot.
We just call him John Full Throttle. Graham.
Something like that.
So I do
like
have
to
a
make interesting videos.
I do have
We
a
actually
question,
have to order
but before we do that, I think if everything is
Okay.
correct now,
Ooh, it's K, take
I
2.
should have K.
Hi, Kay.
Is everybody ready?
Hi.
Oh my God,
Yay!
K! All right,
Where
so,
are you joining us from, Kay?
Yeah, where are you at?
I'm in Bellingham.
At Western Washington University?
Yes, that is where I'm at.
Yay!
So can you give us a little more introduction on who you are and your first experience?
I'm Kay. I did strategy and media for TeamREDACTED. Stronghold 2016.
And before you got involved with this crazy bunch of people?
I was on FRC Team 2907. And yeah, that's what I did.
And if I remember correctly, Kay, you were a Dean's List finalist in 2013?
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
You need to stop better, Aaron.
Okay, great. So I'm going to inject here. Got a question here. So if given more time, this is going to make you think. You got to put on your thinking caps at this point.
So, if robot in 4 days.
Robot in 4 days. Okay, I like that.
So it's not even 4 days, right? We finished in about 40 hours.
We
30.
We did, and we actually got
36.
We didn't do
actually got
anything since.
Yeah,
Monday
okay, fair enough.
No, he stuck his coat hanger
I
on.
added two
All right,
coat
okay,
hangers.
we added a coat hanger, but
We,
realistically, we had all of the defenses working in some way, shape, or form, and scoring and all that, and the autonomous done by 10 p.m. ish Sunday night.
Fair enough.
Anyway, back
Okay,
to
back to Jansen's question.
Yeah, thank you for that.
we actually got crap for,
If given more time,
for people for
uh,
that
yeah.
shooter.
how would you approach designing a lift if you wanted to climb?
So I think all of us here mentor teams, right? So we
Yes.
we do have a little more time to help maybe guide our students, or at least help our students avoid pitfalls over the next, well, just under 6 weeks. So
Well,
And that, the fact that we mentor teams is one of the driving factors of why we finished Sunday night. Just did a little stuff Monday because we all had team meetings that we were going to,
and jobs.
and that our jobs and that of
Or
course
both.
is more important. You
Um,
hardly show up at your job anyway, Aaron, so.
I work from here on Monday.
So yes, John just worked from here.
I did too.
So there are a couple of ideas that I have that we could stay with the low robot
yeah.
and still climb. We could use an articulated arm. It would probably require 3 joints, 1 at the robot and 2 up there, and a hook. And my thought would be to power those joints with a relatively low power motor like a window motor or a bag motor or a 550 or the Andy Mark 9015s, those low power motors, to articulate and get the hook up there and then incorporate a cable and winch system to then lift the robot so that we have a large high power motor and a sturdy system there. And that, as I think it was Aaron who said, that would also be used as a way to pull the sally door or to pull the drawbridge down.
Yeah.
I would definitely, if we have more time, like to see if there was a possibility to do both a climber and a shooter, kind of an arm on a short robot that could be dual purpose or multi-purpose to also be used to open the obstacles. That's something that I would really like to have explored if we had had more time. But obviously, if we had had more time, we would have made very different decisions on the robot in a couple of places.
Though it's important to note that our philosophy behind this, the Robot in 3 Days build, is that although there are numerous teams around us who would let us use their shops for CNC milling,
Water jetting.
laser cutting, we do have,
3D printing.
we've got friends with those abilities who would have helped us out,
And employers.
and employers. Our philosophy is we're attacking this as if we are a rookie team or a very low resource team. So we only use the basic hand tools that most people will have access to. Yes, we did use a table saw for a couple of things, but you could do that with your circular saw or your jigsaw or even your good old fashioned hand saw. There's nothing we did that requires expensive tooling.
Something that we have here in Washington is we have a very large rural part of our state. So I'm really hoping that out of doing a robot that could essentially be built in a garage, we've inspired a couple of kids next year to go ask their parents or go ask their 4-H team or go ask another community organization to maybe join up and make a rookie team, seeing that they too can do a robot and they don't need CNC mills, laser cutters, 3D printers, and lathes, even though those are awesome. Anybody could have built this robot in any space. They just needed a couple of hand tools and some very basic electronics equipment like a multimeter and some wire strippers in order to do it.
Yep. I have a picture in my office that says before there was a high tech, there had to be a low tech. And much to like Eric's suggestion of an articulated arm deliver a grappling hook with a winch, I had said, we basically do this exact same thing with just an electronic tape measure. Just throw it on there, let the thing deliver a little hook up there, and pull it down. That'd be the most low tech thing ever. But it would probably work just fine.
There have been teams that have done that as a climbing option in the past, is used, either they converted a tape measure into a powered one, though there are a few on the market that actually will power extend for you, though
Legal FRC motors.
you would have to adapt a legal FRC motor to that. Which might be a good use if someone could do that with one of those throttle motors.
There's a really cool one of those electronic tape measures in the movie we bought at Zoom.
I agree, that was awesome.
It was a funny scene.
And of course, there's always, and it gets a lot of hate, but I think it would be okay for this application.
Oh my God! Don't
Good
even
old-
say it.
Good old fashioned scissor lift.
Oh!
Wibbly wobbly scissor lift, yeah.
All it has to do is get up there.
Hey man, weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
All right, so I do have a
Back to Jansen.
couple of questions here.
Scissor
So,
lift.
uh,
Hi Kay.
Do you have anything to add, Kay?
No, not really.
She's
Alright.
probably not even paying attention, just working on homework or
Well,
So
something.
actually, while we're
behind
talking
us.
about K, our
Jansen
lovely
was gonna say something.
team standard.
Oh yes.
Let's get that up here. So go ahead and ask your question.
Sure. So Matthew here online actually has another question. I'll start with the hard one first, and then I'll go with the easy ones. I don't spend much time on Chief Delphi. Eric, I believe you are the one that does the most, if I know correctly. Matthew's question is about one of Carnack's predictions, and your opinion on it. So the prediction is that fewer than 25% of number one seeds are going to win their events this year. Do you have an opinion on that? Have you read this or heard about it?
I have seen that. I was surprised to see Karnak return this year because he was absent last year. And, Karnak has been pretty darn accurate in the past. So I hate to go against what he says, but that 25% number seems very low to me.
So what would your prediction be, Eric?
I don't know that I'm
Are we
willing to
recording
create
this, Jansen?
a prediction because you'll bring it back and to me at the end. But in that thread on Chief Delphi, actually, someone did go back and say for the last, I think it's 5 or 6 years, the lowest was in the 50% of that the number one seed won everything, and the highs was in the 70-something%. I don't remember the exact numbers. I do understand Karnak's theory that because the way the ranking points work this year, that you get ranking points for breaking down the defenses or what do we call it when you surround the tower?
Capture.
Capturing
Capture the tower.
capturing the tower, not the flag like everyone said, though you do lower the flag, it's not capture the flag, it's capture the tower. That does mess with the ranking a little bit, but on the other hand, all those things are now worth points in the finals matches.
Well, let's step
So I don't think that skews it as much as Karnak seems to.
back to Rebound Rumble. I guess that would have been in 2012. So presumably we wouldn't have any 2012 alum who are still FRC students today, but I was a student in 2012, and if I remember correctly, cooperation, that is to say, 2 robots from opposing alliances balancing on the bridge, was also worth essentially ranking points then, and it didn't seem to skew things too badly. I mean, obviously, it may have to some
with the
extent.
same model that then turned into a balance at in eliminations became points. right?
Well, no, it just became, yes, balances were worth points both in eliminations and in
Oh, was it both?
qualifiers,
Okay.
but you couldn't get any extra points for the competition because, of course, it was your opposing alliance. So it wasn't really worth anything then in elims.
Yeah. And so on Chief Delphi, whoever it was that actually went back and did the math, we can see where it was in 2012, where there was a less, I'm not sure quite how to say it, but
A lower percentage of, or
a lower amount of the ranking points could possibly come from this, from not winning. So, I don't know where, I didn't actually pay attention to the exact numbers and years and stuff on that, but,
See, now if that was the one that dropped down to 50%, you can only get one ranking point. Now you can get 2 ranking points. So obviously,
Yeah, but
that's
the
So,
ranking
there you
points,
go.
the
So-
ranking points directly correlate to points
Mathage.
in the semifinals, and a lot of points.
yes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. In this case, it's actually kind of balanced out by that.
I think
To
so.
Eric's point.
I would argue that there's another factor
You
that
can
could
argue
contribute to the number 1 seed, or higher seeds not necessarily doing well, which is that I think one of the biggest deciding factors this season, and it's true every season, but even more so this season, is that scouting is going to be absolutely
Yep.
huge. Probably the most significant factor in determining the winning alliance at events this year. And
This year's scouts
so-
are going to get all girls.
or all the guys.
Not my scouts. They're
Yeah.
the
Or all the
guys.
guys.
So maybe there's a really good team that's able to get number 1 seed on their own performance, but they are going to fail in the elimination matches if they don't have good scouting.
All right, so I'm going to redirect you here. On that similar note here about with predictions and such, what do you think the most common robot is going to be this year for competition, and what do you think will succeed the best?
I know that I think it's going to be, I think we're going to see lots and lots and lots of short robots. I think we already had this conversation this weekend. I think we're going to see lots of short robots, and I think these guys disagree with me.
No, I'm on the fence. I don't think we're gonna, I think this is gonna be the most diverse field of robots we've ever seen personally.
Yeah, definitely. At least in recent history.
Yeah, since we've been doing this.
Yeah, I mean the last 3 or 4 years, there's been kind of one main design, right? In 2012, the most popular was the either counter rotating or single wheel with a backing, pivoting turret robot. Then in 2013, you had the pair of wheels that shot the frisbee out.
But there you had long full field shooters versus
That's
up at
true.
the pyramid
but-
shooters versus right up at the wall shooters.
And you
Yeah.
had tall and short robots
And you had
as
lots
well.
tall and lots short.
But
You know.
the full courts were probably 5% or less. I'd say about 50 to 70%
Of
were.
the entire field of robots, yes. And
Yeah.
when you got to finals, it was more like 20%, 25%.
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
Interestingly enough.
So the tall
Yes.
full court shooters were absolutely a dominating factor that year, but this year, I personally don't see any, at this point, dominating thing.
I can't. Well, that's the thing. I don't know that I can put my finger on what is going to be that dominating thing. Something will come up to the top. I'm sure of it.
We had a conversation this weekend where one of Regina Grubb, one of our fellow TeamREDACTED members, went back and looked at some of the footage from last year, and she just happened to, off the cuff, at some point during our strategy meeting, say, "Oh, I bet you those cans in the middle are going to be a big part of the defense." And we were arguing whether or not there's defense for last year's game at that point. And what do you know? She was pretty much spot on. But this year, I don't think any of us have come up with that's going to be the clinch factor. And hopefully you've been getting a little bit of the sense that we've all been sitting here talking about many, many different solutions to this same problem. There's not just one way to do it. This is just one way, and then the other robot and 3D robots are also just one way to do it.
Yeah, on that note, like I've seen, I think 2 out of the 8 total teams are all did tank tribes. I don't know about the other 6 minus us, other 5, but there were at least 2 teams. It was Ri3D 1.0 and Team Indiana that one built a custom tank tread with a raised platform, and the other one used the kit tank drive. It was particularly
Tank
impressive.
treads.
They're cool,
Very cool.
and I think that's going to succeed
I want
really
to play
well.
with tanks.
I will too.
And
We should build a tank.
And that was-
is 2.0.
that was one of the, actually one of the options that Andy Mark gave us in the Ri3D choice was their new tank kit. I chose not to get that because it is not a cheap solution.
A tank.
And I really struggled with that. I was looking at that tank and going, wow, I want one of those. I don't care about the robot 3 days thing. I want to play with the tank. But
And then
again,
you can
our philosophy is this is for a low resource team. So not that buying the pneumatic wheels is cheap, but much cheaper than the tank.
But then they'd have a tank.
I know. And
So-
believe me, I want a tank.
I have another question here. Tell us a little bit about the weight of the robot, and did you test it with added weight
Did we
on
ever
any
weigh
of
the
these
robot?
obstacles?
We did
We
not
didn't
weigh
weigh
the
it, did
It's
we?
the robot up by yourself.
It's a two-person lift.
It is not.
No, it's not.
You
No?
can easily lift on your own.
It's-
show you?
Do you think it's
so-
40 or 50 pounds?
It's like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Well,
say 50.
it's well below regulation weight.
Oh, we're gonna get a demonstration here. Let's make sure that we have all the cameras all the cameras watching.
And I'm going to move my surfaces myself.
It's much
I don't
hard.
want those.
This is definitely a one-person.
Oh yeah, yeah, that looks right.
So yes, we actually made bets on, and now at this point I don't remember what I said, but we were all figuring that it was somewhere in that 50, 60-ish pound range. No, we did not add any additional ballast to see how it would perform like that.
I'm not sure where we would have squeezed in ballast, to be honest.
Here's him with
Yeah.
Chelsea in the back.
Yeah, just have you
But
ride the robot.
We need the half Chelsea.
Yeah.
Oh,
So the half Chelsea thing is we used the weight that we use for calibrating the inspection scales at our FRC district events. It weighs approximately about half of my weight, so that's the half Chelsea thing. Last year, we used that on our robot when she
That
took
was our
a
ballast last year.
Yeah.
face plant into the ground, as I'm sure lots of people's robots did that first test. Just bam.
Sure, we can pick up 3? Ah!
It'll be really interesting to see what a robot that weighs very close to the regulation weight looks like this year. I can't think much more to put on this robot other than maybe a shooter, and I can't think that would, and a scaler, and I don't think that would add 70
A sprinkling of
pounds.
robust, perhaps?
Yeah,
You could
sprinkling more
use a sprinkling of
robust.
robust.
I don't know.
Don't-
Teams are going to come up with
I can't wait to see it.
overcomplicated drivetrains that take a lot of weight. I can just see some team going with Octacannon for who knows why.
Or some sort of
I'm sure
suspension
there's a
system.
great reason.
Yeah,
Is-
I haven't quite figured out
That'd be
how the
cool.
suspension systems are going to work within the
Yeah.
bumper rules. That's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Because you have to keep your bumpers between 4 and 12 inches, and it's a 5-inch bumper, so you really only have 3 inches of wiggle room there.
3-inch pneumatics.
Okay, so I have two things real quick. One, you're holding our little standard that was made up here. Could you talk about who made that and why they did that?
So that was Kay, our person joining us remotely from Bellingham today.
And her mom, Regina.
And her mom Regina, who is also on our team, both current or former members of 2907. And, it's part of the fun of this year's competition is adding just a little more flair and
This
More
year we're going for
uniqueness.
17 pieces of flair.
Yes.
So I wanted, on that note, I wanted to, Kay, I know you're just kind of the voice in the ether for everyone on the stream, but can you tell me a little bit about what you did to actually put that thing together? It was kind of a fun process watching you do that.
Yeah, so I can't see anything, but I'm going to do my best to describe it from what I remember.
Eric will demonstrate for you.
We're parading around the room holding the standard right now.
And
Oh
John's
man,
making.
I wish I had.
John, put your pants back on.
Okay, so
You too, Aaron.
there's a file under the game manual stuff on the website, and it gives you all the information about the standard. Even though they're not necessary, we chose to do one because it's fun. And you get to go to the fabric store, and who doesn't love to do that?
A few of us raised our hands. Just saying.
It's,
3/4 of us.
I
Yeah.
like the fabric store. Jeez, guys.
So, Kay, how long did it take you to make?
Like 3 hours,
So
2
just
hours.
just you, or it took like you and your mom each 2 hours each?
No, it was a team effort. It was
Okay.
2 hours.
So seriously, teams, it takes like 4 hours to make one of these.
Make one.
Definitely do it, because otherwise you're going to be the only team at the competition without one, and it's going to be really embarrassing. Plus, if you saw Frank's blog post today, I think, you get these really awesome patches to put on it. So spend the 4 hours, make
Big blank
one.
space for your patches.
So with the size, so if you remember, Kay, we were talking about how we couldn't believe that it was this small. The
It's a
standard.
lot smaller
It's a lot
than than you think it's going to be. So I would suggest for teams to choose something really simple to put on it. I mean, we did our logo, which was a bit of a reach, but I think it turned out pretty well. If you can't be super creative about it, maybe just cutting out your team number and gluing that on or something like that would make something really cool and super easy. And yeah, you get the cool streamers to put on it, so why not?
It makes me
So,
curious about how big.
You did say glue this on, so how did you make these letters and how did you attach them to our fabric?
So the main fabric, the black, is a jean material because you want something heavy so it lays flat and doesn't
It's denim or denim.
Yeah,
Jean material.
everyone at first should be familiar with denim.
Oh, good.
Okay, whatever.
Based on now. Moving on.
And then we cut out everything else out of just cotton fabric, normal stuff. And then there's a spray iron-on adhesive that you spray onto the back of the fabric, and then you can place those however you want, and then iron that onto the fabric. So it's very minimal sewing. You could do it with a staple gun and an iron if you really wanted to.
So the part that I think that was really cool about how they did this was Kay was ingenious. She grabbed the projector that we were using to show all the Robot and 3D streams on the wall. She grabbed that and put it down on the floor and projected the TeamREDACTED logo onto the fabric, and then did an outline and stenciled it onto the fabric, and then cut each of the letters out so that it looked exactly like the logo, and it came out awesome. So that was
Absolutely.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good job, Kay.
So yeah, that was a great way to convert our standard team logo into something that was easy to cut out and stick up there.
And
So-
then leftover fabric went to being our bumpers. So if you get if you use red, white, or blue fabric and it's the right color, then it could potentially go for a multi-purpose recycled bumper cover.
So definitely want to thank Regina and Kay for doing that and figuring out actually how to make this thing happen. It turned out pretty well, and I'm actually particularly excited to see how other people are what other designs that we're going to see.
I want everybody to have the pizza standard from the robot game animation.
I wasn't going to mention
I love
it, but
that.
since
With
you did,
Hawaiian.
John, as a first volunteer, I feel like as much as I would try to resist it, I would be biased in favor of a team that had a pizza standard. So
What about a corn dog one?
it's
Not
just
so
not the
much.
same.
I'm liking the corn dog.
we'll have two alliances: the Canadian pizza versus the corn dogs.
All right. So what was your favorite moment during this build? I'm gonna
Yes.
start with John, since you've gone
I
ahead.
just
and-
said yes because
Yeah.
I loved it all.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Really?
Oh, you want
Anything
a favorite?
particular? I'm gonna put you on the
Actually,
spot.
honestly, for me, my favorite was the strategy discussions. Figuring out how the game works, what the best way to attack all the scoring potentials in the game. What are the other teams going to be doing? How do you actually make a robot that's going to be the most competitive in the game and be able to do something really well? And then take that and try and put it into the reality of our build designs and how do we make something that's easy to build and quick and simple and still reach the goals that we want to of being able to score and reach all the defenses and do all that. So just that part alone, just the discussion on the weekend was probably my favorite part of it, personally.
Cool.
I love that thinking piece.
I'm gonna ask the same question to Eric.
So I mean,
You
I
can't steal my answer.
enjoy all of it,
No.
just like John. You know, that's the reason we do this, and the team that we assembled. We're all a bunch of friends. We've all been around.
Don't go that far.
We
teams
tolerate each other.
for a long time, and we work well together. So it's fun to hang out with your almost friends and play with cool toys. You know, who doesn't like playing with cool toys?
Just a good old boy.
And that right there brings up
Never mean
my
no harm.
favorite part of this was the first time that, was it you or was it Leo that did the first Dukes of Hazzard? Where we went over the moat at full throttle and that baby flew through the air just like General Lee.
Yeehaw!
So that was my favorite part.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to join these two and say that I had a ton of fun all weekend. And I also think I'm gonna have to echo John in saying that the strategy and the logic discussion was definitely one of my favorites. I find it to be very fascinating to try to figure out all the little nuances of the game. As for the team, I think we're all going to be seeing each other again this weekend for FTC. So
And
it's-
next weekend for FLL,
and then
and the
again,
weekend after that for FTC FLL
State
combined.
Championships.
The next weekend I'll be in New Hampshire at first. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
fine.
he gets to go on vacation to Manchester.
Occasion.
But
I wouldn't call it vacation.
I love the technical aspects of the discussion, and then also building, because I love electronics and actually doing all the wiring, which that's not a representation of what my wiring actually looks like.
Wow.
For this
Let me
space.
distance myself from Duke for a moment.
Oh yes, its name is Duke from Dukes of Hazzard. I don't think we ever introduced him.
Yeah, I don't
Or is it Bo or Lou?
It's both. It's Uncle Jesse.
I've never seen the show. There's good reason for that. But I also wouldn't pass up an opportunity to hang out with all of these amazing people, and they're people who I'm very happy to call friends because of First now. Not just because of this, but they've been friends for the last a couple of years.
So, my favorite part of the weekend was definitely
Sweeping
the
the
Seahawks
on Monday.
no, the fantastic dinners from Mama Grubb. But I feel like maybe that's not necessarily in the spirit of the question.
Oh no! We figured out how to saute an onion and soften celery and carrot in a crock pot. That deserves recognition right there.
But with regards to the robot and the robot design, I think probably maybe the most exciting moment for me was when we first tried the wedges of the tomahawks on the portcullis, and somehow it just worked. It,
It's almost like it was planned.
We were really nervous about that design as we started working on our prototype and putting it together. You know, the physics suggests that it should work, but when you look at it intuitively, it looks like you're. Honestly, assuming our coefficients of friction are about right, I think it'd be super reasonable for teams to probably even go a little bit steeper, but you guys will have to try that out yourselves.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it was any worse. I mean, we took out the actual gate part and measured it on the scale, and it was 7 pounds.
The one that we had.
The one that we had.
test with.
So it's a little heavier than the first specs, and it's wood on wood for.
Wood on polycarb.
Wood on wood.
On ours, it was-
On the
Oh, I
portcullis
see.
itself.
The portcullis itself would be wood on wood, and
Right,
then we
my
have
point being
poly
that
on
the
wood.
friction on ours should have been higher
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was wood on
Yeah,
wood.
yeah.
So I would expect that the one in the actual field is going to be easier.
So one thing that's important about this, while this is cut at 45 degrees relative to the robot, as you approach it up that ramp, it looks like a shallower angle to the portcullis, because the robot's at a 10-degree angle or whatever, so it is more like a 35-degree angle-ish maybe. We never actually got out the protractors and figured that out.
You, Aaron, Jim, Prelesnik, and Alida did an excellent job with designing that. It worked pretty well and very close to what you guys
Extremely
thought it would
Yeah.
work as, so.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had to ad lib as we went along. One thing, you first teams need to be thinking about now is bumpers. They
And
really
how
can,
they're going to be in the way of
they can
anything
get
you're
in the way
working
of
on,
pretty much everything. They'll get
Make
in the
sure
way
that's
of
in your design.
your ball intake. They'll get in the way of whatever of traversing the obstacles. They're all sorts of fun.
Especially you second-year
I was
teams
gonna
who
say,
have never seen the bumpers before.
Our rookie
Yeah.
teams from last year.
Yeah, so if you have bumpers 4 inches off the ground, they're going to start hitting your obstacles. If you have them 12 inches off the ground, then it's really hard to get over them with something that stays within 15 inches of the frame perimeter. So
So one thing
it's interesting.
we haven't discussed so far is actually our ball intake system.
Well, hold on, I want to see what Kay's favorite part of this
Where
is.
did
Oh yeah,
Hold on,
we
I
missed
think
that, I'm
I think
sorry.
we dropped. I
Where'd
think
he
we
go?
dropped
We
Kay.
lost K.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna try this again. Oh wow. Hello.
Hello!
No.
Domino's Pizza?
Avon calling.
All right, we're gonna get her back.
So
in a
while we're
second.
getting Kay back, does the man
There
behind
she
the
is.
camera
Yay.
want
Hold on.
to
There we go.
share his
Nope.
favorite part?
No.
Kay's back already.
Kay's back. Can you hear us, Kay?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry
Yay!
about that. Can you? We lost you there. Will you tell us what your favorite part of the build this weekend was?
I think I'm gonna piggyback on John's and say that the strategy part is really fun for me. That's what I did on FRC, and so it's just I really loved analyzing the game and working through all the points and seeing what's gonna be the best robot. And I think it's more fun to do it on Robot in 3 days because you really start to get creative with what other teams are gonna do and just like figuring out all the possible different combinations. And like they were saying earlier, just this year there's going to be a huge diversity of robots, and so it was really fun to see just all the different levels of competition there can be. So there's really something for all the teams, whether you're a veteran team or a rookie team. There's a lot of diversity this year. But I also will say that some of the early mock-ups for our standard, creating those with Aaron and Dawn was also very fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
I don't even want to know what those involve.
No.
Oh, you didn't see it?
If John and Aaron were.
I'll show you later.
Boulders and castles, I'll leave it. Boulders and towers, excuse me.
So I guess I'll throw in there.
Yes, please.
I actually particularly am excited for this game. I was introduced in 2013 to the Ultimate Ascent game, and I fell in love with the whole aspect of, oh my gosh, a robot could fall and smash into a million pieces. This is awesome.
This is my chance, Mike's destruction.
And so I really enjoyed a lot of the aspects of those old games, and then we had what was the one that we just did last year? Come on.
You had aerial assist and then
And
you had recycle rush.
So the recycle rush problem was, you lost a lot of the danger. You lost a lot of that potential. Other than a falling tote stack, that was pretty much it. There was nice competition and stuff, but I missed out on the offense and defense aspect. So now that we're returning to this
There was
offense
the
and defense,
occasional FTA running through a stack of
I did enjoy that. That was a loud game.
And
That might happen, yeah.
there were lots of goats sitting on totes and in totes and on totes in the P&W district.
But anyway,
Where did
Tote Go? It's over here. But I really did enjoy it. I really am looking forward to seeing how people use the offense and defense aspects, especially with audience participation. I think that'll be a really interesting aspect I'm particularly excited for. So we have been at this officially for about 65 minutes, just a little over an hour. I don't see any more questions on the line, but I do. There are people watching, so we appreciate you sticking around and hanging out and checking us out. If you guys have any other questions or anything, please feel free to submit them now. Our Ustream is online, our Facebook page, or our Twitter at TeamREDACTED, or Team_redacted. The other one is just one post, whatever.
It's been redacted.
It's been redacted. So your clearance does not clear you for this information. So
Clearly.
I guess in closing, I kind of wanted I want Eric to mention some things again about the whole concept of what we were trying to do a little differently than the main Ri3D mission. Maybe you can describe a little bit about that and why it's different for your interpretation here.
But make sure you do over the code in your lab.
Of course. The
Details.
famous goat has signatures there from Mr. Don Bosey, from Frank Merrick, from
We
Woody
actually
Flowers.
get Dean Kamen?
We did not
We
get
didn't
Dean
get Dean
Kamen.
Kamen last year today.
Anyway, and I'm not sure how that last person.
Oh wait,
was
did
there.
you? Is it really signed?
Yes,
Let me
it's
see
really
it.
signed. Yes, I took it down to Frank Merrick on the.
It's been living at our house.
That's
On
actually
the,
wow. That's super cool. I had no idea.
Floor of the.
That's famous toad goat.
Yes.
Cool.
Toko
He went to
Junior
World
belongs to
Championships
Fort
last year. I
Wayne.
took him down on the floor so he could get
We took him down on the floor.
Frank's signature and to the mentor breakfast for Woody's signature, and Don Bosey signed it when he was out here at an event. But anyway, back to the question. So we've elaborated on it a couple times, but our philosophy behind the Robot in 3 Days thing is this is not for you teams out there that have been doing it for 5 or 6 years. We're just good entertainment. We just look at it and go, can you believe what those idiots are doing? But it's aimed at that first year team, that second year team, that team that is building in somebody's garage or basement, that you can build a simple robot that can play the game.
This is I can do that robot.
Yes.
And then if the robot doesn't perform well, it's all about having fun with your friends or fun with your teammates. Because really, it's more than the robot, and I know that sounds cheesy, and I know that's going to be hit home, but it is more than the robot.
But only have fun if it's at their expense. I think that's a rule somewhere.
The robot's great, the robot's fun, but the people definitely are important too.
Well, and take the opportunity to learn something new. Whether you've never used a drill before, or maybe you don't know anything about programming. Maybe you can learn a little bit about programming and how that works.
Why are you looking at me?
Or because you need to learn a lot about programming, guy.
Are we gonna post the programming the code back on GitHub like we did last year?
We can.
We can.
Yeah.
Is that legitimate? Like legal? You
Yeah.
can do that?
Yeah?
What
Okay.
do you mean legal?
Well, I don't know if the Ri3D folks want us to keep our code or if.
No,
I mean,
other
to be-
teams post
To be
it
fair,
first.
we
doesn't-
might have to redact some stuff. I think there's some top secret level clearance required for parts of our code, but we'll post most of it, right?
There you
go.
Okay.
So
Well,
we're ready to sign off then.
Any
So-
last questions, last pondering thoughts? Kay, do you have any last questions,
You know what,
thoughts?
even if you don't have a question, if you
Meanderings?
got a comment.
Comment. We love
Tell us
comments.
Don't
What
like
idiots
us.
we are.
We love warm
You
fuzzies.
love us. You feel warm and fuzzy.
so
We
I
should
guess.
go away.
I guess to end everything, I just wanted to go around the room real quick, and is there anyone that you'd like to thank in this whole process? And we couldn't have done this without a lot of support from teams and some other mentors and the other freaking Ri3D teams that were working this whole time. It was a lot of fun watching them. So I guess I'll start that whole thing by saying, I really appreciate the teams for stepping up and showing off their streams, and we had a lot of fun actually watching all you guys do your work and scheming in the back corners and barely able to listen to your audio. It was actually a lot of fun. And I really want to thank Griffin Coxon. He was my assistant and my helper, and he did a lot of work for us
Good
doing
job.
video editing.
Thank you, Griffin.
He edited the day 1 and the day 2 videos, and I did the intro, and soon, hopefully, to be finished with the reveal video in the next day or two.
This robot will be revealed soon.
You'll see it someday.
Stay tuned.
But anyways, I just really want to thank Griffin for his efforts this weekend. I could not have done this without him. Anyways, should I go ahead and turn it over to you guys, Aaron?
So
Chelsea.
some people who we have to thank who are not here: Regina Grubb,
Mama Grubb.
Mama Grubb, Leo Conniff, Alida Mendes, Jim Prelesnik, Ayla Delat. They were all members who couldn't be here tonight. Again, a big thank you to Griffin Coxon. I don't think Jansen would have survived this weekend without him, nor Kay, who is in the computer. Yeah, I know you guys can't see her. I'm going to throw another really big thanks over the wall to Washington First Robotics, Aaron McCallum, our wonderful new staff, Terry and our new, I'm
Kelly?
Kelly and Terry, that's right. Sorry. Kevin Ross, Adrian Rimey, Eric Stokely, Eric VanBuren, and Susan Martucci. Thank you for letting us share your space.
And our latest, Gary Major, the new FRC and FTC
Yes,
program manager,
sorry.
who's over there on that other side of the state, but joins us via teleconference.
And we got the teams, right? We thank the teams
We
for
should
sharing.
thank him again.
Lions.
Thank them again. Oh, go ahead, you can.
Lion Robotics 2907, Team Tread 3219, and Bare Metal 2046. Thank you guys so much. Without you guys and your generosity, we probably wouldn't have been able to build a robot as fast nor test it.
And thanks to 2046, 5588, and 949 for letting us borrow their mentors, right?
So I'm going to speak on behalf of Regina. Regina's watching at home, and she's texting me some questions every now and then. And she just wanted to say that her favorite part of this whole thing was the crock pot cooking challenge.
Thank you, Regina. I had so much fun.
She's been loving the videos that we've been doing this year, and she wishes she could be here, and she loves you all. So,
Aw.
anyways.
Yes. I know you guys didn't know this, but we made gourmet cooking with 2 crock pots, 1 knife, 1 cutting board, and disposable utensils this weekend, and a toaster oven. So hats off to Regina and Ayla for arranging all of that, and you guys are rock stars. That's a really hard thing to do. Try it sometime. Sauteing onions in a crock pot's kind of tough.
All right, Kay, I'm going to call you out here one more time. Is there anything that you'd like to say as a final thought here?
I just want to thank all of our team members for giving up your time this weekend and on Monday, and just making it a really fun weekend. It's great getting to do robots with you guys, both this weekend and for the next 4 months. And of course, Mama Grubb.
Yay.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have survived
And a
without.
birthday shout out to her because her birthday is in 5 days.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy 35th birthday.
Okay,
Before we go.
before we move on, I actually have another question.
Oh, okay.
A question just popped up. Can you summarize the drivetrain mods again, please?
Okay. So,
Cue Ustream ad.
I'm getting a bunch of complaints about the ads, unfortunately.
Sorry.
So our drivetrain is the AM14U3. It's not a 14U3, it's a 14U3. There you go, Danny and Andy. And before we do that, let's do another big shout out to the folks at Annie Mark who donated all these parts to us. Without them, we would not have been able to do this, period.
Back to the drivetrain.
So back to the drivetrain. So we did use the prototype kit of the 8-inch pneumatic wheel upgrade kit that is currently out of stock on anymark.com, and they say they will be having everything ready for us for team ordering shortly. So it's mainly the stuff used in that kit, which I understand is different than the prototype kit they gave us. So, and my understanding is that they will be posting the CAD files for that soon. So that you will have full directions on how to do it with the parts that they are now including in the kit. But basically it is a set of pneumatic wheels, some spacers that use the pulleys that come with the basic AM14U kit, some longer bolts. There's belts for the kit comes with belts to do a long drivetrain that we did not use. You can use it with the square belts that come in your kit.
How many sim motors?
So personally, we just did 1 sim motor per side because number 1, we're going for a light robot. Number 2, we know we are not going to get into any pushing matches. And well, we're using it for. For other teams that, you know, a 2-sim per side drivetrain would probably be a good idea.
Do we use a gearbox?
So we used the included Tough Docs Mini that's included in the 14U3 kit. And then like we've said before, we did do that square chassis size, which did help us cross some of the obstacles. That was not our original intention in choosing that. It was to help us not get high centered, but it was one of the those happy accidents.
Yeah.
Well, all right, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. I don't see any more questions anymore, so I'd like to go ahead and
I still have to do
finish.
my thank you.
I still want to finish your thank yous.
Yeah. So I again echo everybody else's thank yous. And I'll just add one more. I'd like to thank Kanye West for giving me the courage to get in front of the camera and say stupid things.
And one other person we need to thank here is Aaron Schmitz. This whole thing started because a couple of summers ago on Facebook he said, Ri3D anyone?
And now it's become a
I'm
happy
so
tradition.
sorry.
And Chelsea chimed in with I could do that, and I chimed in with well, we could maybe do that. And then
The rest is history.
we kind of worked together to put together a team of people who the vast majority of our team are key volunteers here in FIRSTWA.
Yeah, actually,
Pacific
And-
Northwest
if you think
District.
about it, we have the lead robot inspector for the entire state. We have the first senior mentor for
P&W district.
No, for
Or
Washington
for
State.
for,
State,
for
sorry.
Washington. We have
I'm-
2 FTAs.
Yep.
A VC,
A site host,
a site host,
A judge. 2 judges.
judge, multiple referees. We kind of got it all.
We-
We had a third FDA and a scorekeeper stop by and say hi.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on the volunteer note, anybody in the Pacific Northwest District, so mainly Washington this weekend, if you have time, we need judges in Everett and we need judges in Tacoma. So please, if you're over the age of 18 and happen to
Shameless
still be
plug.
watching, I'm going to make a shameless plug for volunteers this weekend. Go ahead over to VEMS. Find the events, sign up. We'd love to have you. Without you, we cannot make the events run this weekend.
Coco wants you.
Yes,
Yeah.
we want
So
you.
yes, TeamREDACTED is about to start our Pacific Northwest tour. You will find us in Everett and Tacoma this
Tacoma's
weekend.
going
So
in
both
there.
of the judge advisors this weekend for FTC are actually TeamREDACTED members as well. Me and Ayla.
We'll be making essentially a every weekend appearance until
And then we're going to be
April.
in Shorewood in following weekend of that, we're going to be at the Shower Center in
Minus
Kent.
Minus
Show where it's
February, I think we're making weekend appearances here in the Pacific Northwest, so come find us. We're happy to hang out with you and answer questions.
Sign autographs. We'll have headshots available.
Or,
Yes, for
or
$5 each.
or run if you want to pitchfork us for some of the decisions we made, we can do that too. But
Or
yes,
bad humor.
or bad humor. Come find us,
I'm
say
not
hello.
Thankfully, Jim Prelesnik was not on the video tonight. 'Cause he's the king of bad humor.
But
And thanks to Jim.
It's been fun. Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
big
thank
thanks
you
to Jim. He was a new at this year, and he dove right in and did a lot of the design and build on that Tomahawk.
We had 4 new members this year. 4 new members,
Yep.
and a couple more people sound like they want to come on for next year too. So it's been lots of fun.
Agreed.
All right, well, I think we're about done. Why don't we go ahead and say goodbye, and then we'll take off. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, interwebs.
Have a good
Bye, interwebs.
build season.
Bye.
Good luck.
See you at the competition.
Oh dear.
Your mic is still live.
It's still live. We can still talk and say things and like act like we don't know we're live.
Okay. So
John, you smell so
Everett?
You
bad.
can narrate the
Everett?
video if you want.
Everett.
I'm
What video?
Tacoma.
Tacoma.
the one we're playing.
Dang it.
There's a video.
Everett.
Oh yeah.
Everett.
I'm Everett.
Everett.
It's Alida. Yay for
I said,
Alida.
yeah, you have to be Everett because Kathleen's dance is actually
Chelsea's pretending to work in the
tonight,
background.
tomorrow, and Saturday and Sunday.
The next shot is the.
So
Are we still narrating?
I was just curious.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because
The
I'm
next shot's my
Everett.
I was
favorite.
gonna ask.
Yeah.
Hey, so do you have anybody else there with you? I mean, I was thinking, no,
All right.
she's actually dancing right now.
I have to make the shameless plug.
Oh, I know.
Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely.